All right, guys, welcome back to Father and Son Investing. This is part 3 of 3 successive videos about Nanox. In part 1, I covered Nanox's proposed acquisition of Zebra Medical. In part 2, we talked about Nanox's proposed acquisition of USA Rad and what that could bring to the table in terms of Nanox's future. Now in part 3, we will talk about recent news with Nanox and then also look out into the near future to see what will be happening with Nanox. All right, let's just get to the biggest news about Nanox, and really probably the one that everyone cares about. On August 19th, the company filed a report with the SEC indicating that on August 12, 2021, they had received a request for additional information from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration concerning their last 510(k) submission regarding the multi-source device, the Nanox ARC. They let us know that the submission was placed on hold pending a complete response to the FDA's list of deficiencies, and they indicated that they had 180 days to respond. They also indicated that they plan to respond by the due date of 180 days. Now, I just want to remind you of the FDA 510 clearance process, because this is important to understand. So by day 7 after a submission, the FDA will send an acknowledgement letter just indicating, hey, we've received your submission. By day 15, they submit an acceptance review. I showed you a checklist on my previous video. Really, it's a checklist process. They run through a checklist just to make sure that they have all of the acceptable things within the submission. If not, then they place it on RTA hold, refuse to accept hold, and the company has to essentially meet the items on that checklist to get past this point. Now they go into the substantive review, and by day 60, the FDA plans to inform the submitter whether it will proceed either with an interactive review or they will place the 510(k) submission on hold at asking for additional information. All right, so this is the point where Nanox is stuck at right now, this purple square here. They are placed on hold. Now I want to show you this slide. The data is a little bit old, but it indicates an important point. And that is, if you look at these bar graphs here, we will see that really it's only about 19 to maybe up to 26% of medical devices that are being submitted for the 510(k) clearance that get cleared within 90 days. We can see that it's over half of them that get cleared within 6 months, 86% roughly, at least in the 80s, within 9 months, and then 95% of all devices that are going to get cleared will be within those 12 months. Now, I have showed you guys this slide before, but I just want to reiterate this point. The average is 177 days, so just about 6 months. That goes with the data I just showed you previously. But certain devices can take longer. We can see that anesthesiology devices, immunology, and hematology devices are all over 240 days. Now, the average time for a radiology device is 112 days. Remember that an average, of course, means that there will be some that will be shorter than that and some that will be longer than that. So it is not unusual. In fact, it is expected that 510(k) clearances for medical devices will be placed on hold at some point during their 510(k) clearance process. In my mind, the fact that the FDA allows 180 days in order to respond says that this response process can take quite a while. When I lived in Italy during my time with the Air Force, my landlord used to say to me often, normale, that's normale. This is normal, this is just to be expected, so I don't see this as a problem necessarily for Nanox. Now, the other recent Nanox news we've covered in the previous 2 videos about Zebra Medical Imaging acquisition, and as well as the USA Rad binding letter of intent to acquire USA Rad and their co-company MDW. Recently, in July of this year, Nanox announced that they had reached an agreement with a pharma company for the deployment of 1,000 Nanox ARC units across Nigeria. And that brought to total the current contracts to deploy 6,150 Nanox ARC units And they do have some agreements with USA Rad as well as SK Telecom to deploy an additional 5,500 units in the United States, Korea, and Vietnam. Of course, that's pending local regulatory approvals as well as satisfactory completion of user acceptance tests. They also provided us with their quarterly results, and what we get out of that is that they are still losing money, and they are doing it at an increased rate. If we look at the 3 months ending June 30 compared to 2020 when it was a little more than 6 million, we're now looking at more than 13 million, so double the rate. And they are attributing that to R&D expenses as well as stock-based compensation. You can also throw in there for some of the losses their marketing expenses. What else do I glean out of this quarterly report? Well, they tell us that there are 100 million authorized shares as of June 30, 2021. And we can see that as of December 31st, 2020, there were a little more than 46 million shares issued and outstanding. And now by June 30th of 2021, we've got almost 48 million shares outstanding. So they have increased the number of shares outstanding by more than 1.7 million. Take those number of shares and multiply it by the closing dollar amount on Friday, August 27th, and we see that they are almost at 1.2 billion market cap. All right, what is coming in the near future for Nanox? Well, in September of this year, the Cantor Fitzgerald Global Healthcare Conference will be taking place. I gather from what I see on the Nanox website that Nanox intends to participate in this conference, so we'll see if their chairman, Rand Poliakine, has anything new to say during that presentation. What else is coming in the not-too-distant future for Nanox? Rand Poliakine actually will be stepping down as Chief Executive Officer, and a member of their board, Erez Meltzer, will be taking over as the CEO in January of 2022. All right, my take on their stock price is I think it's sitting really right where it needs to be. Now, I had guessed that after the initial Nanox cart 510K clearance that the stock price would go up. It did. It reached into the 60s. And I also had stated that right after it would be coming back down because the company is not generating revenue. Now, I incorrectly guessed the range of that decline in stock price. I really thought it would come back more to the $40 or $50 range, which is where it was hovering before the 510K clearance. We've seen it get as low as $19.05 or so. So I badly missed on that. But when it got below $20, I went ahead and bought some more stock. I am still holding my stock. I haven't purchased any more shares. I am just kind of waiting to see what happens with this company. I still see them far out into the distance before they really start to generate revenue, unless this USA Rad acquisition goes through and the Zebra Medical acquisition goes through. Both of those companies are already generating revenue, and so that could help with Nanox's bottom line potentially. All right, that's it for Nanox and its recent news, as well as stock price and what might be coming out into the near future. Until next time, enjoy your investing.